Back when I was 23, I was in that uncomfortable part of life where you're technically an adult, but you still feel like somebody is going to walk in at any second and tell you that you're doing it wrong. I had dropped out of community college after 2 semesters. Not because of one big dramatic reason. I just stopped going. At first, I missed one morning class because I overslept. Then I missed another because I told myself I could catch up online. Then suddenly, it had been 3 weeks, I had unread emails from professors and my mom was asking me why the school mailed something to the house. I was living with her at the time, in the same room I had slept in since middle school, surrounded by posters I didn't like anymore and boxes of things I kept meaning to throw away. She didn't kick me out. She wasn't that kind of mother. But she had a way of making disappointment quiet, and honestly, that was worse. She'd ask if I had any plans for the day while already knowing I didn't. She'd leave job listings on the kitchen counter without saying anything. She'd say things like, "You don't have to figure everything out right now," but the way she said right now made it clear there was a deadline somewhere. So when I saw the job posting, I applied before I could talk myself out of it. Night security. Cedar Lane Storage. 11 at night to 7 in the morning. 4 nights a week. No experience required. Must be comfortable working alone. That last line should have bothered me more than it did. All I saw was that it paid better than the grocery store. I didn't have to deal with customers, and I could tell my mom I was finally doing something. Cedar Lane Storage sat on the far edge of town, past the car wash, past the used tire place, past the little stretch of road where the streetlights got farther apart until the whole area started to feel forgotten. It wasn't a huge facility. Maybe 6 long rows of orange storage doors, a small office at the front, an automatic gate, security cameras, and a chain link fence with those plastic privacy slats woven through it. The manager was a woman named Denise Porter. She was in her late 50s, with short gray hair, reading glasses on a chain, and the exhausted patience of someone who had managed too many people who stopped showing up after payday. She interviewed me in the office while eating crackers from a sleeve and scrolling through something on her computer. "Most nights are quiet," she said. "You sit here, watch the cameras, do a walk around every hour, make sure nobody is sleeping in a unit, and call me if anything breaks. That's it. That's it." She said it like she knew how good that sounded. Then she added, "You'll hear things." I waited for her to explain. She didn't. "What kind of things?" She looked at me over the top of her glasses. "Doors settling, metal popping, raccoons, wind. People think storage places are silent, but they aren't." "Okay. So don't call me every time you hear a bang." "I won't." "Good." She printed some paperwork, had me sign a few forms, and gave me a blue polo shirt with Cedar Lane Storage embroidered on the chest. Then she handed me a key ring. There were 5 keys on it. Office, bathroom, electrical closet, gate override, and 1 small brass key with a square head. I held it up. "What's this one?" Denise glanced at it. "Old lock. Probably nothing you'll need." "Which lock?" She reached over and took the key from my fingers. Then she stared at it for a second longer than she should have. "Actually," she said, "I'll hold on to that one." She slipped it off the ring and dropped it into her desk drawer. I should have asked more questions. But I wanted the job. So I didn't. My first night was boring in exactly the way I needed it to be. The office had a little desk, 2 old monitors showing camera feeds, a microwave, a mini fridge, and a bathroom that smelled like lemon cleaner and mildew. And he showed me how to print the overnight report, where to sign the walk-around sheet, and how to reset the gate if it jammed. Before she left, she pointed to the cameras. "Camera 8 flickers sometimes. Ignore it unless it goes out completely." Camera 8 showed the far back corner of the facility, where the last row of units ended near a drainage ditch. The image had a slight grain to it, darker than the others. "Got it," I said. She paused at the door. "One more thing. If someone comes to the office after midnight and says they forgot their gate code, you don't let them in. Doesn't matter how upset they are. Doesn't matter if they say they're a tenant. They can come back during business hours." That seemed reasonable. "Okay. And don't unlock units for anyone." "I thought I wouldn't have keys to the units." "You don't." She looked at me for a second, then said, "Exactly." Then she left. For the first few hours, nothing happened. I watched the cameras. I drank bad coffee from a vending machine cup. I walked the rows with a flashlight at midnight and again at 1. The place felt different outside the office. Long rows of storage doors on both sides, each one painted orange, each one with a number stenciled in white. The flashlight beam made the doors shine like wet paint even though everything was dry. Unit 4, Unit 5, Unit 6, a gap for the fire lane. Unit 7, Unit 8, Unit 9, The numbers went up normally, except in the very back row. That was where I noticed something strange. The last visible unit on the end was 18. After that was a blank wall of corrugated metal. No door. No handle. No number. Just the end of the building. I didn't think much of it. I finished my walk, went back to the office and signed the sheet. At 2:13 in the morning, camera 8 flickered. Not a small flicker. The whole screen flashed white. Then black. Then came back. For about 2 seconds, I saw a door where the blank wall should have been. An orange roll-up door. White number. Then the image flickered again, and the door was gone. I stared at the screen. Camera 8 showed the back row exactly as before. Unit 18. Blank metal wall. Nothing after it. I actually laughed a little, because that was what my brain did instead of letting me be scared. Denise said camera 8 flickered. That was all. Old camera, bad wiring, weird angle, whatever. I wrote camera 8 flicker 213 in the log because I wanted to seem responsible. Then I tried not to look at that monitor again. My second night I found the notebook. It was in the bottom drawer of the desk, under a stack of old printer paper and a half-empty box of rubber bands. Small black notebook. No name on the cover. First few pages were normal. Gate codes that had been crossed out. Notes about late fees. A reminder that the office toilet needed a new handle. Then the handwriting changed. It became smaller, tighter, like whoever wrote it was trying to fit as much as possible onto each page. At the top of one page, written in blue pen, were the words, "For the night person after me." I remember smiling because I thought I had found some kind of workplace gossip. Then, I read the first rule. Do not count the doors after 2:00 a.m. I stopped smiling. Below that were more rules. If camera 8 shows unit 19, do not rewind the footage. If the gate opens without a car outside, do not close it manually. If a man named Callum says he rented before Denise worked here, do not correct him. If you hear knocking from inside a unit, check the number before answering. If the number is 19, go back to the office and turn off the lights. There were 12 rules total. Some were written neatly. Some had been added later in the margins. One had been underlined so hard the pen tore through the paper. Do not give Callum the brass key. I read the page 3 times. Then I sat back in the chair and looked toward the desk drawer where Denise had taken that small brass key. For a few minutes I tried to decide if it was a joke. Maybe the last night guard wrote it to scare new people. Maybe Denise knew about it and let it sit there because she thought it was funny. But Denise didn't seem funny. And the rules were too specific. At 2:13, camera 8 flickered again. White. Black. Picture. This time unit 19 stayed on the screen for almost 10 seconds. The roll-up door was there, squeezed into the space where the blank wall should have been. The number looked hand-painted, not stenciled like the others. I did not rewind the footage. I sat completely still until the screen flickered and the door disappeared. Then someone knocked on the office window. I almost fell out of the chair. A man stood outside the glass. He wore a brown jacket, dark pants, and one of those old flat caps that older men wear when they're trying to look dressed up in a casual way. He looked maybe 60. Maybe older. It was hard to tell through the reflection of the monitors. I hadn't heard a car. I hadn't heard the gate. I stood up slowly and walked to the window, keeping the desk between us. The man smiled politely. Not creepy. Not wide. Just polite. Like someone waiting to ask directions. I opened the little speaker slot built into the glass. "We're closed," I said. "I know," he answered. "Sorry to bother you." His voice was soft. Too soft for a man standing outside at 2 in the morning. I forgot my gate code. I looked at the notebook on the desk. First instruction from Denise. No one comes in after midnight. "I can't help with that after hours," I said. "I just need to get into my unit. You'll have to come back when the office opens." He looked past me, into the office. "You're new." I didn't answer. The man tilted his head slightly. "What's your name?" I almost told him. It felt rude not to. Then I thought of the notebook. "What's your unit number?" I asked. He smiled. Been a long time since anybody asked me that. "What's the number?" "Used to be 19. I stepped away from the window. The smile stayed on his face. "You must be Callum," I said before I could stop myself. His expression changed. Not much. Just enough. Like I had handed him something he wasn't expecting. I was, he said. Then he looked toward the desk drawer. Did she leave my key? I closed the speaker slot. Callum stood outside the office for almost 20 minutes. He didn't knock again. He didn't yell. He just stood there, hands in his jacket pockets, looking through the glass at me like he was waiting for manners to come back. Then, at exactly 2:33, he turned and walked away. I watched him on the camera feeds. Or I tried to. He should have passed camera 1 near the office. Then camera 3 by the gate. Then camera 5 along the first row. But he didn't appear on any of them. Only camera 8. For 1 second, he was standing in front of the blank wall at the end of the back row. Then the screen flickered. Unit 19 appeared. The roll-up door was open halfway. Callum ducked under it and went inside. Then the door vanished. I almost quit that night. I even typed out a message to Denise. Something like, "Hey, I don't think this job is going to work out." But I didn't send it. Because 23-year-old me was still more afraid of looking unstable than being unsafe. That is something I've thought about a lot since then. How many dangerous situations continue because the person in them is embarrassed to admit what they're seeing. The next morning, Denise came in at 7 sharp. I told her about the man. Not everything. Just that someone named Callum came to the window asking for a gate code. She was unlocking the filing cabinet when I said his name. Her hands stopped. Then she kept moving like nothing happened. "What did you tell him?" "That we were closed." "Good." He said he rented Unit 19. "There's no Unit 19. I waited for her to smile. She didn't. "Then why did he say that?" "Because people say things." "Who is he?" She shut the filing cabinet. "Someone who isn't your problem unless you make him your problem." I should have walked out right then. Instead I said, "There's a notebook in the desk." Denise looked at me. For a second, she looked old in a way she hadn't before. Then she said, "Did you read it?" "Some." "All of it?" "No." "Good. Good." She took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "The last person who worked nights wrote that. His name was Aaron. He was dramatic." "What happened to him?" "He quit." The way she said it made me sure he hadn't. I asked, "Do you still have the brass key?" Denise put her glasses back on. "You don't need that key." "What does it open?" "Nothing that concerns you." "That's not an answer." "No," she said, "it isn't." Then she walked into the bathroom and shut the door. I went home and slept for most of the day. When I woke up, I told myself I wasn't going back. I even said it out loud. "I'm not going back." Then my mom knocked on my bedroom door and asked how work was going. I said fine. She smiled. Not huge. Just enough to show she was relieved. So I went back. The third night, I brought a pocket knife. I know that sounds dumb. It was dumb. But it made me feel like I had some control. I read the rest of the notebook as soon as Denise left. The rules continued after the first page, but then they became more like diary entries. Aaron had worked nights for 6 months. At first, he thought Callum was a homeless man sneaking onto the property. Then he thought Callum was a former tenant with dementia. Then he stopped trying to make him normal. One entry said, he remembers the facility before the second row was built, and he says that was before 1998. Callum looks the same in every camera still. Another said, Unit 19 only. It appears when no one is expecting it, but it likes routine. It likes 213. It likes being counted. Don't count the row. And then, Callum does not want into 19. He wants out of it. The key is not for the door. The key is for whoever replaced him. That line made no sense to me then. It made sense later. At 1:55, I turned off camera 8. That was not in the rules. It was my idea. I thought if I couldn't see Unit 19, maybe it couldn't become part of my night. 5 minutes later, the office phone rang. The number on the little caller ID screen showed all zeros. I did not answer. It rang 12 times. Stopped. Then rang again. I unplugged it. At 2:13, the monitor for camera 8 turned itself back on. The screen was black at first, then white. Then there was Unit 19. This time, the door was open all the way. Inside was not a storage unit. I don't know how to explain what I saw without making it sound impossible. It looked like a hallway. A narrow hallway with orange storage doors on both sides. A hallway that continued much farther back than the building should have allowed. The perspective was wrong too. It looked like camera 8 wasn't looking at the outside of the row anymore. It looked like it was looking from inside Unit 19, down a hallway of more units. I leaned closer to the monitor. Door 19A. Door 19B. Door 19C. All the way down. At the far end, someone stood facing the camera. Callum. The office lights went out. Not the monitors. Not the little red power light on the printer. Just the overhead lights. I sat in the dark, watching Callum on camera 8. Then the office window speaker crackled. I had closed the slot. I hadn't touched anything. But his voice came through anyway. Don't be rude now. I didn't move. You read Aaron's book, he said. The monitor flickered. Callum was closer in the hallway now. He always thought writing things down made them safer. I grabbed my phone. No service. That was new. I always had service in the office. Callum's voice came again. Did he write what happened to the first one? The first one. I looked down at the notebook. My hands were shaking so badly that turning pages took effort. Toward the back, after several blank pages, I found a list of names. Aaron Bell. Marcia Lowe. Gerald Pike. Nina Alvarez. Thomas Red. There were dates beside each name. Aaron's date was the most recent. 3 months before I got hired. The earliest was 1981. At the bottom of the page, in a different pen, someone had written, "There's always a night person." The speaker crackled again. "You can ask her," Callum said, "but she won't say it plain." The lights came back on. Camera 8 showed the blank wall. Unit 19 was gone. At 2:33, the gate opened by itself. The monitor showed the gate sliding slowly to the side. No car outside. No person. Just darkness beyond the fence. One of Aaron's rules came back to me. If the gate opens without a car outside, do not close it manually. So I didn't. I sat there until 3:07, when the gate closed on its own. Then I signed the walk-around sheet even though I did not do a walk-around. I wrote, "All clear." That felt like a lie big enough to matter. The next morning, I asked Denise about Aaron. She said he quit. I asked about Marcia Lowe. She said she didn't know the name. I asked about Gerald Pike. She said, "Stop reading the notebook." I asked about Unit 19. She stood behind the desk with both hands flat on the surface and looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Some jobs are easy because the rules are strange. Some jobs are dangerous because people think strange rules are optional. That is not an explanation. It's the only one you're getting. Why hire me?" Her face changed then. Just a little. For a second I thought she might actually feel guilty. Because the job needed filling. Because Aaron quit. Because Aaron left. That was the first honest thing she said. Left. Not quit. Left. Where did he go? Denise looked toward the back row through the office window, even though we couldn't see it from there. Then she said, "Don't give him the key." I should have quit. I know I keep saying that. But there's a point where fear turns into obsession, and obsession can feel a lot like bravery if you're young enough. I wanted to know what the key opened. I wanted to know what happened to Aaron. I wanted to know why Denise stayed. So I started digging during the day. I went to the library because that was where people went before everything was easy to find online, and because I didn't want Denise seeing search history on the office computer. I found old property records. Before Cedar Lane Storage, the land had been a moving warehouse. Before that, it had been a family-owned cold storage business. Before that, in the 70s, the lot belonged to a man named Callum Voss. He ran a repair shop there. Voss and Sons Appliance Service. There was a grainy newspaper photo of him standing in front of a cinder block building with a cigarette in his mouth and a wrench in one hand. It was the same man. Older clothes. Younger face. Same eyes. The article was about the shop closing after a fire. Not a massive fire, not one that destroyed the whole building. Just an electrical fire in the back room. One person was reported missing. A night watchman named Thomas Red. That name was in Aaron's notebook. The earliest name. I kept searching. Thomas Red was never found. The repair shop closed. The land was sold. Years later, the storage facility was built in stages. The first row. Then the second. Then the back row. Unit 19 appeared on one permit drawing and disappeared from the next. On the original plan, there were supposed to be 19 units in the back row. On the final plan, there were 18. The space for 19 was listed as sealed mechanical access. I printed everything. That night I brought the papers with me. Denise saw them under my arm. She sighed before I even sat down. "You're making this harder," she said. "For who?" "For yourself." "What is Unit 19? She took the papers from me and flipped through them. Then she said, "I don't know what it is. But you know it's real." "I know it appears." "What's inside?" "Depends who opens it." "Have you opened it?" She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I asked, "Why do you stay here?" Denise looked tired. More tired than I had ever seen a person look. "My father owned this facility before me. His father bought the land before that. Some families inherit money. Some inherit businesses. Some inherit problems." "Callum?" She almost laughed. "Callum is not the problem. Callum is a symptom." That made my stomach tighten. "Of what?" She glanced toward the desk drawer. "The facility doesn't like being empty at night." I stared at her. "That sounds insane." "I know. You hear yourself right?" "I've heard myself say worse." Denise handed the papers back. "There is a pattern. Something watches the night person, learns them, tests them, then it offers a trade." "What kind of trade?" She looked at me. "The kind that sounds like leaving." I thought of the line in Aaron's notebook. "Callum does not want into 19. He wants out of it. The key is not for the door. The key is for whoever replaced him." I said, "Callum wants me to let him out." Denise nodded. "And if I do? Then someone else takes his place." "Who?" She didn't say anything. I laughed once, but it came out wrong. "Me? If you hand him the key, yes." I looked at the desk drawer. "Then why keep the key here?" "Because throwing it away doesn't work." "How do you know?" Denise's mouth pressed into a thin line. "My father tried. That night, she didn't leave at 11. He stayed until midnight, sitting in the office chair beside me, both of us watching the cameras in silence. Around 12:40, she stood up. "If I stay too late, it gets agitated." "That's ridiculous." "Yes," she said, "most of this is." Before she left, she opened the drawer and took out the brass key. For a second I thought she was going to take it with her. Instead, she put it on the desk between us. Small. Old. Almost harmless looking. "I'm tired of carrying it," she said. "I thought I wasn't supposed to have it." "You aren't. Then why give it to me?" Her eyes were red. "Because I think Aaron gave him a promise, and I think Callum believes the next night person inherited it." "What promise?" Denise looked at the monitors. "To help him leave." I pushed the key away. "I'm not helping him." "I hope not." Then she left. I stared at that key for the next 2 hours. I wanted to throw it in the trash. I wanted to lock it in the drawer. I wanted to walk out and never come back. Instead, I did nothing. At 2:13, every camera went black, except camera 8. Unit 19 appeared. The door was open. Callum stood inside. This time, he was not alone. There was someone behind him. A younger man, wearing the same Cedar Lane polo shirt I had on. Aaron. I knew it immediately. I had never seen a photo of him, but somehow I knew. He stood in the hallway behind Callum, pale and still, with his hands hanging at his sides. Callum stepped closer to the camera. His voice came through the office speaker. He said, "You'd be kinder." Aaron's mouth moved behind him. I couldn't hear the words. Then the office phone rang, even though it was still unplugged. I picked it up. I don't know why. Maybe because Aaron was looking directly at the camera now. Maybe because I thought if I didn't, he would keep mouthing words forever. The line was full of static. Then a voice whispered, "Don't count the doors." It was Young. Not Callum. "Aaron. What happened to you?" I whispered. Static. Then Aaron said, "I counted." On camera 8, the hallway behind Callum stretched longer. More doors appeared. 19A. 19B. 19C. 19D. All the way down into darkness. I tried not to count. But once you see numbers, your brain wants to organize them. It wants order. It wants to know how many. My eyes moved before I could stop them. 19A. 19B. 19C. 19D. 19E. I slapped my hand over my eyes. The phone line filled with a sound like someone knocking from very far away. Then Aaron whispered, "Good." The call disconnected. When I looked back at the monitor, Unit 19 was closed. Callum was gone. Aaron was gone. The brass key was no longer on the desk. It was in my hand. I dropped it like it had burned me. It hit the floor and bounced once. Then the knocking started. Not from the office door. Not the window. From the storage rows. One knock. Then another. Then dozens. Metal doors all across the facility began to rattle from the inside. Bang. 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 The camera feeds showed orange doors shaking in every row. Unit 4, Unit 11, Unit 22, Unit 37. All of them. Like people were trapped inside. Like everyone who had ever stored something there had left behind a little piece of themselves, and now all those pieces wanted out. I remembered the rule. If you hear knocking from inside a unit, check the number before answering. If the number is 19, go back to the office and turn off the lights. I was already in the office. The lights were already on. So I turned them off. The knocking stopped instantly. The facility went silent. Then someone spoke from inside the room. "Thank you." I turned slowly. Callum stood in the corner by the filing cabinet. No camera had caught him. No door had opened. He was just there. He looked smaller up close. Less like a threat. More like someone who had been cold for a very long time. I couldn't move. The brass key lay on the floor between us. Callum looked at it, then at me. "I'm tired," he said. "I'm not giving it to you." "I know." His voice cracked slightly. "I thought Aaron would." "What happened to him?" Callum's face changed. Not guilt exactly. Something close. He tried to be clever. "What does that mean?" He opened it without the key. I looked at him. "How?" Callum smiled weakly. He counted until it noticed him. The office felt colder. "What is it?" Callum turned toward the black monitors. "A place that doesn't like endings. That means nothing. It means everything keeps being stored." He lifted one hand and pointed toward the rows outside. Boxes, furniture, photographs, clothes, names, years. People think storage is stillness. It isn't. It's waiting. His voice sounded less like an old man now. Less like someone talking to me. More like someone repeating words he had heard whispered for decades. When something is forgotten long enough, it looks for a person to remember it. I said, "Are you dead?" Callum looked down at himself. I was. The answer came too quickly. Too simply. Like it bored him. Then he looked at me. Again. "Are you?" I couldn't answer. He smiled a little. Not cruelly. Sadly. "You will be if you stay night person long enough." The office lights came on by themselves. Callum was gone. The brass key was back on the desk. Under it was a page torn from Aaron's notebook. One sentence had been written across it in fresh ink. "Denise has been night person too." That was the first time I understood she had lied about the most important part. Not about Unit 19. Not about Callum. About herself. The next morning, Denise arrived early. I was waiting for her outside the office with the key in my hand. She looked at it. Then at me. "You saw Aaron," she said. It wasn't a question. "You work nights." Her expression didn't change. I was younger. "What happened?" "I survived." "That's not what I asked." She unlocked the office and went inside. For a moment I thought she wouldn't say anything. Then she sat down at the desk and told me the truth. Her father had made her work nights one summer when she was 19 because the regular guard disappeared. That regular guard was Thomas Red, the first name in Aaron's notebook. Denise saw Unit 19 3 times. The first time, she thought she dreamed it. The second time, Callum came to the window. The third time, she counted the doors. She said after that, she started hearing knocking in places where no one could be. Trunks of cars, bathroom stalls, closets, cardboard boxes. Anything that could hold something. She said one night, Unit 19 opened, and she saw her father standing inside, even though he was alive and sleeping at home. He was mouthing words, begging her to take his place. Why would he do that? Denise stared at the desk. Because his father had done the same to him. That was how it passed down in her family. Not blood exactly. Responsibility. The facility always needed someone to acknowledge it, someone to watch the rows when the rest of the world forgot them. The night person wasn't just security. They were a kind of lock. Callum had been the first. Or the first she knew by name. Then Thomas. Then Denise's father. Then Denise. Then Aaron. And now maybe me. I said, I'm quitting. Denise nodded. You should. You're not going to stop me? No. Will that fix it? No. I laughed because somehow that was exactly what I expected. What happens if there's no night person? Denise looked at the cameras. Things go missing. From units? At first. And then? From homes nearby. Cars, closets, bedrooms. I thought of my mother's house. My room. The boxes I never unpacked. The feeling that my life was being stored somewhere until I decided what to do with it. Denise said it doesn't care who watches, only that someone does. Then why not hire someone else? Her eyes moved to mine. I did. That was the last thing she said before I walked out. I wish I could tell you I never went back. That I quit, blocked Denise's number, and got a normal job at a grocery store like my mom wanted. But the next 3 nights, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Aaron mouthing words from behind Callum. I saw the hallway inside Unit 19. I saw the doors. And worse, I felt the counting start in my head. 19A. 19B. 19C. I would sit up in bed before reaching D. On the 4th night, my mom asked what was wrong. I almost told her. Then a knock came from inside my closet. One soft knock. She didn't hear it. I did. The next morning, I drove to Cedar Lane Storage and waited until Denise arrived. She looked at me through the windshield of her car. She didn't seem surprised. I said, if I come back, I want answers. She said, no one gets answers. Then I want rules at work. Denise looked toward the back row. Rules only work until it learns you. I came back that night. Not because I was brave. Because I had already heard the knocking somewhere else. And I understood what that meant. The job had followed me home. At 11, Denise handed me the key ring. This time, the brass key was on it. I said, I thought I shouldn't have this. You shouldn't. Then why? She looked older than she had 2 days before. Because it asked for you by name. At 2:13, Unit 19 appeared. I did not look at camera 8. I stared at the desk. At 2:20, someone knocked on the office window. I did not open the speaker slot. At 2:33, the gate opened by itself. I did not close it. At 2:41, the office phone rang. I did not answer. At 2:58, the knocking started inside the units. One at first. Then many. I turned off the lights. And in the dark, Callum whispered from somewhere very close. Good night, person. I stayed there until sunrise. When Denise came in, I told her I would work 1 more week. Just long enough for her to find someone else. She said, that's what Aaron said. I quit anyway. Or I tried to. On my last night, I left the brass key in Denise's drawer, placed Aaron's notebook on top of it, and wrote my own page at the end. For the night person after me. I copied the rules. All 12. Then, I added 1 more. If you think quitting means you are done, listen carefully to your closet when the house gets quiet. I walked out at 7 in the morning and never went back. For a few weeks, nothing happened. Then a month. Then 2. I got a job stocking shelves at a hardware store. It paid less. I didn't care. My mom said I seemed better. I almost believed her. Then one night, about 6 months later, I woke up at 2:13 in the morning. No reason. No nightmare. Just awake. My room was dark. The house was quiet. Then my closet door clicked. Not open. Just clicked. Like pressure had shifted on the latch. I stared at it. I wanted to call for my mom, but I was 23 years old and some stupid embarrassed part of me still existed even after everything. So I got out of bed. I crossed the room. I opened the closet. Nothing was inside except clothes, shoes and boxes I still hadn't unpacked. Then I saw something on the floor. A small brass key. Square head. Old. Almost harmless looking. There was a tag tied to it with a piece of string. Not paper. Strip torn from a Cedar Lane Storage receipt. Written on it in Denise's handwriting were 4 words. It remembers good workers. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning I drove past Cedar Lane Storage. I don't know what I expected to see. Police tape. A burned building. A sign saying closed. But it was still there. Gate working. Rose standing. Office lights on. A young woman sat behind the desk wearing the blue Cedar Lane polo. Maybe 20. Maybe younger. I almost stopped. I almost went inside and told her everything. But before I could turn in, she looked up from the desk. Even from the road, I could tell she was looking directly at me. Then the gate began to open. No car had pulled up. No code had been entered. It just opened. Slowly. Inviting me in. I drove home instead. I still have the brass key. I've tried to get rid of it 3 times. Once, I threw it into a river. 2 nights later, it was in my kitchen sink. Once, I buried it behind the hardware store. The next morning, it was in my shoe. The last time, I mailed it to a random address in another state with no return label. A week later, it appeared inside a cardboard box in my closet. Box was one I hadn't opened in years. Written on the top in black marker was a number. I don't work nights anymore. I don't rent storage units. I don't keep things I don't need. If I forget what's inside a box, I throw the whole box away. People think that's extreme. They don't understand. The worst things in this world don't always chase you. Sometimes they wait. They wait in locked rooms. In sealed spaces. In boxes. In places built for people to put things away and pretend they're gone. And sometimes, when a place has held too many forgotten things for too long, it starts wanting someone to remember. So if you ever take a night job somewhere quiet, and you find a notebook in the bottom drawer, read it carefully. If there are rules, follow them. If there's a key, don't touch it. And if you ever walk past a row of storage units after 2 in the morning, do yourself one favor. Do not count the doors.